This should help.
Yeah,
Alright.
I mean, we just go over stuff already again.
And you tell them YouTube video.
Okay, so we're recording now, so this is the project description. The thing I need, you guys, all of you need to be aware of that you have not been doing and did not do, and it has made my life a little bit hard as far as grading goes, is you did not properly name the projects. I have about a third of them that were turned in, and the project name is Project One. Well, when I download those files and then try to import them into Eclipse for me to run and grade them, I can't open them because I already have one called Project One. So I'm having to go in, import yours, rename them before I can import the next one. So it very, very clearly states. Come on. Why is it not working today? Okay, fine. I'll go back over. So if you come down here, it very clearly states name the project, not the zip file, not the submission file, the Eclipse project. So there's a really easy way to do that. If you open Eclipse up, you can go right click on the project name and refactor it, rename it, and it will do all the files and dependencies inside. You only have to do it in one place. That makes sense? All right. So part one of this starts off with us creating an overloaded constructor, which means we're going to take the original constructor and we're going to make a copy of it with a different parameter list. So the constructor is the one that builds the object the first time out. So it's named the same as the class name. So the constructor should be Doodle Turtle, right? See if I can get Eclipse up and running too. Eclipse. I'll download that again. I hate that these computers don't save what I did last time. So we're going to launch Eclipse. And we're going to import. What?
Oh no, the project. I did it.
You did what?
There.
Yay. All right, so general. And some of y'all did not turn in, I don't know if it was y'all, but some people did not turn in that first little thing where you just had to draw the box and the plus sign, and you know, that was an easy grade that some of y'all did not turn in. Just saying. So all right, so go away, welcome screen. So in project one, I'm gonna go to so just for refreshers for everybody, this is the default constructor because it has the same name as the class name. We know it's the default constructor. We overload it by making one just like it and changing it. But it has to have different parameters. So it has to have something between parentheses. So in this case, it was int size. And then we added another line in here that was this set size, right? Yeah. and we set it equal to the size. No, it's not equal to method. Right? So that's constructors. All right. I don't want to do the whole thing, so I'm just going to run through some of the terminology and stuff. So overloading means make a copy of with a different parameter list. Constructors build the object. They also have the same name as the class file, so they're easy to find. They're usually also the first things in there because you have to have constructors before you can do anything else. The initialize with default values is a helper method because it's a method that does stuff for another method. So it passes things into the constructor. Right? All right. So we overloaded that. We're going to have an empty method body. Well, if you create a new one, it always starts off empty, but I copied and pasted, so mine wasn't empty. I actually went ahead and took the initialize helper method with me. So the method body, if you're wondering, is anything between this bracket and this bracket. So all the code inside is the method body. This is the method declaration or header. It's called, I've heard it called both ways. This is a single parameter. This is one with no parameters. A lot of them with no parameters. We don't have any. Trying to find one that has multiple parameters. This one has 2 parameters. So the parameter list is 0 to many. All right. What else? What other terms and things did we talk about? If you get into the comments, the at params means that you're going to tell me what the parameters are for or define the parameters that you're passing in the comment section. Refactor means that you're going to rewrite it in a cleaner, more concise way. So if you have one line of code that's repeating itself 15 times, use a loop to make it run faster and more efficiently. And I don't have to read 15 lines of code. And you don't get lost in your code. So an example of that is in the Doodle controller where it draws things. So it's repeating the same lines multiple times. So we would refactor that into a loop because it's the same 2 calls over and over again. That make sense? This one could be a loop too because it's doing 2 steps twice, so you could make it a loop. Not as urgent that you refactor 4 lines of code, but instead that if you had 40 calls to the same thing, refactoring it into a loop would be much simpler. All right. Also, when we want to change, I don't know if everybody was here when I was showing this the last time, but one of the things it tells you to do is change the turn 90 and refactor it where it takes a parameter. And the most basic way to do that is just to cut and paste and type over and delete things. But if you right click on it and go to refactor, you can, I just got to start wearing my glasses, change method signature, and you can come up here and take turn right and turn it into, hit the 90 off. You can add a parameter. It's going to take a double. We're gonna call it degrees. And the default value, I'm gonna set it to 90. And then I can go. Okay. And it should have changed it everywhere it was needed. So if I go back to controller, turn right, got changed. But it probably needs to be clean. Why are you giving me an error? Oh, okay. Controller. Oh. It didn't like that I put in an integer value, so. And then you have to put degrees down here. I misspelled the goodness. It's gonna be one of those days, isn't it? All right, it's there. I don't know why it gives you an error, but it should change all the names and then you can just go and everywhere it gives you a red line. It at least tells you where you need to find them all at. It does usually work much better. I did it in class Tuesday for some reason, and it cleaned them all up. I don't understand why I didn't today. Because Eclipse takes me today. I had to uninstall and reinstall Eclipse on my computer in my office today because it wouldn't compile anything. It kept telling me I had the wrong version of Java. So anyway, trying to cover terminology. Can y'all think of any other terms that needed explanation in here? So you guys right now are on part 3 now or 2? You're on 2. So let's go look at part 2 for a little bit. So part 2, we're going to move the drawing of a rectangle to the doodle turtle class. So again, when you move things from one place to the other, it's kind of like refactoring it. So let's go, we're going to go look at the doodle turtle class. And we're going to look for draw. We want all of this to be moved, correct? We're moving the drawing of the rectangle to the doodle. Oh, drawing of the rectangle. Where is it at? It's currently in Doodle Controller. Doodle Controller. That's draw rectangle. Why does it say draw? Is there just a draw rectangle? Oh, did y'all already move that out? Y'all did that in part 1, didn't you?
Oh, we making, a draw, a rectangle. Yeah.
Okay, y'all made that, okay. Oh, okay, I'll go make it over here. It doesn't return anything, so we put void, and it's just draw rectangle.
Yes.
think you refract, I think it refracted drawing. And it just made drawing and draw rectangle.
Yeah, that's fine. Because, it's like, we making, like, the face now. So refactor the draw method to.
Hmm.
So refactor that to draw rectangle.
You don't need draw to be able to draw your face.
We gonna need, yes.
Yeah, because it just tells us that we didn't want to make.
Oh, okay. This is why I should not do my assignments out of order. All right, so we're gonna make draw rectangle. What are the parameters that draw rectangle needs?
No, we gonna make a draw method. A new draw method.
Okay, wait a minute. You have confused me. I'm going
I'm
back to
sorry.
the directions. All right. So part 2 wants us to move the drawing of a rectangle to the turtle class. Currently, there are 2 draw rectangle methods in the turtle class, since 2 different turtles need to draw. The method should accept 2 parameters for the width and the height, and the method body should draw a rectangle with the specified dimensions.
So I refactored the method that draws the other stuff. And then I made that draw a rectangle. And then, I made a new draw method that draws the rectangle for the base.
So this one method. So the method that you are going to create in Doodle Turtle, you should have created a draw rectangle. That draw rectangle then should have, if you read through this, replace draw rectangle with little turtle and draw rectangle with big turtle in the controller. Right?
Right.
So in the controller, Doodle controller, this method here and this method, this one, and then the one down here below it should go away. So I still did that wrong. Stop laughing at me. Not funny. It's hard to be old. So I'm gonna comment it out for right now, but this is going to be deleted out. Eventually, it's going away. So is this one. So in controller, in the Doodle Turtle, I need a draw rectangle method. And it needs an int
That's the
for the
one
width.
with the for loop.
Right? And now it has an empty method body. Note, if you have things that haven't been used, like if you make a method that doesn't ever get used when you compile it again, you'll get like a yellow underline because it's a caution that you've got extra stuff in there. So that's just something actually that is really nice about Eclipse, that it warns you about stuff like that. Because you might have meant to implement it somewhere and forgot, or you might have just made 2 of something. So in here, what do I need it to do to draw a rectangle?
For loop for if I equals 0. and then I less than 2, and then I plus plus.
Mhm. And then
For
it's
the body, it's this dot step forward and passing with. Then this dot turn right 90.
step forward, not right.
Yeah, the S.
I didn't type it, I just clicked on it.
It do that, it just add steps. I don't know why I say steps. I did mine too. And I had to change the step.
But is it supposed to take a value?
Yes, with,
Well,
I don't think you need to do it for the, because I think
Yeah.
if it steps forward, it is a for the part.
you don't have to do a for loop. You can't, absolutely can, but we have to change, since I jumped into section 2 instead of,
It's not all right.
I better go change this where it takes a value. And then this then needs the for loop. Going back and forth between Python and Java is killing me.
Well, because remember earlier on, had to do it for the step forward method, so then you can just call it the step forward method and you're paying it with.
Remember, there's always more than one way to do this. So we also want to put this line here into our for loop. So it keeps up with how many steps it's gone forward. So by changing step forward to do 1 step at a time, now we can tell it how many steps I want it to go. I've refactored it into a more useful function because you don't have to just keep saying step forward, step forward, step forward. You can say step forward 3 times or step forward 4 times. That makes sense? So down here in our draw rectangle, you absolutely can do it in a loop because
step forward.
Yeah, so I did it the way you did it, I just didn't put it.
how come height never looks right when I spell it? Maybe I changed the length so I can spell that. So I can do it as a loop, or I can just repeat those lines for 2 more sides. Does that make sense? So now this assumes, and it should be in your notation when you write your method notations, that it assumes that it's going to go horizontal first, then vertical. The way I've written it, it doesn't, you can write it any way you want to, as long as you know when you go to call it that it does it in that way. So if I take this method now and go back to controller, I can remove, like I said, I can remove these completely. And everywhere that it has draw rectangle with big turtle, I now can do this dot big turtle dot draw rectangle with the width and the height. that make sense? Anybody remember what the width and the heights were from the ones that just deleted?
It was 12 and 6.
12 and 6, thank you. And I can do the same thing here. I can get rid of this and do this dot little turtle.
And that was 22 and 10.
And you can just keep doing that. Because we defined what big turtle and little turtle were in here, they can now just directly call it because the function or the method is in keep giving me numbers.
I think
Were they the same?
Yeah.
I think it would be small. Like,
Get rid of those. First house. That's because they go on probably. First. It's small.
So we're going to keep refactoring down, is what you're telling me. That's the whole point of this, is you're taking code that I've already given you. I'm having you figure out what it's doing, changing it, moving it to more useful places, and making it reusable, cleaner, concise code. And I do realize that we get for loops in here, and we haven't really covered for loops as far as the book, because it's assigned now. But you all had 1301, so for loops should have been part of the prerequisite. So does this make sense? What we're doing?
So, as far as like, would it draw because,
Mine's not gonna draw because I'm just doing bits and pieces of it, and I don't have the whole thing done at this point, so I can't actually run it and show you drawing. Because I didn't do all of part 1. I just started in part 2.
So with the draw rectangle method that we created, which we want us to put like, well, I guess we'll have to put like Lord Tail in here. Because if we just use like the method for the draw rectangle. we can draw.
you right, you can do it there or do it when you call it inside of.
So-
Do control.
What he's absolutely right. So the question was, do we need to put the tail up and tail down inside of this this method? Not necessarily. You absolutely can. Or you can do that before you call this method in the main or the controller or the GUI or whatever, whichever class is calling it, could tell the turtle to put its pin up or down before the method call. Whichever you're more comfortable with is up to you. That one's one of those judgment call kind of things. If you want to be sure that you're actually drawing a rectangle every time that you call that method, put it in there. Make sure the tail's down, and then pick the tail up when you're done. And then you're in control of your methods. So a method that is labeled or named draw by default should draw. That makes perfect sense. It's one less thing for you to think about when you're implementing your code letter. That's one of those things I'm going to leave up to you as a judgment call. I'm not going, as long as it works consistently, I'm okay with it. Now, if you do it in both places, I might, leave you a comment that says, this is redundant. You need to take them out in one place or the other. You don't need to tell it to put its pen down twice and pick its tail up twice. Does that make sense? So that's a style issue, not a functionality issue. Is this helping you at all? What part are you stuck on?
This is right.
Okay, so what's the next thing then? All right, so you gotta draw a triangle. So you need to go back to Doodle Turtle and create a method to draw the triangle. So
Steps or length, you know.
well, we'll go with steps because the turtle does a lot of steps. But basically it's gonna be the length of one side. And so what do we know about triangles? Triangles have three sides. I specifically told you to use an equilateral triangle because then we know what all of the angles are. When you do this, the turtle, you have to know which way your turtle's facing, or you have to assume it's facing. So right now, all of our draw rectangles take it back to its starting point and it's facing horizontally, right? So if we assume that that's the way it's going, then in here, we need a for loop, right? Because we want to draw three sides. Or I is equal to 0, I less than 3, and I plus plus. Then we want to tell this turtle to step forward, the number of steps, and then we want to tell the turtle to turn. How many degrees we want it to turn? 120. Because we want the exterior turn instead of the interior turn. Now, if we tell our turtle to turn right, it's going to draw the triangle upside down. If we tell the turtle to turn left, it will draw it up, right side up. So this is a decision you have to make when you make your triangle, whether you want an upward facing triangle or a downward facing triangle. Or if you're really industrious, you might make two methods to, you know, one draw triangle up, one draw triangle down, or something to indicate which way it's facing. That's completely up to you. You are required to have one draw triangle. Does that make sense? So once you do this and you know that it always draws a triangle facing with a point up, how do I get it to, when I get ready to go on my screen, I want to draw a triangle that's facing down, and I only have the one method. Is there a way to make that happen? Yeah. Tell your turtle to turn 180 degrees. Now he's facing the other direction, and right turn in a different direction than the left turn. Right?
Right. But then, your, set, location on what you use to. So you want to
Yeah.
set that.
So these are things you need to think through when you're doing it. Or you just start drawing her on the other side of the screen.
Right.
You just, you know.
Draw that.
Because he's stuck on the hair because he's been doing part 3, all of it, when he got here today. So if we refer back to our picture, there's triangles in both directions. So like I said, I'm leaving this up to you as a judgment call. You can make yourself 2 triangle methods if you want to. One that draws the triangle facing up, or one drawing the triangle facing down. Or you can just know that when you go to Doodle Controller and start drawing, or in your draw face method, that you need to position the turtle correctly to make the turtle draw what you need. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Does that help you? Okay. All right. So once you get part 2 working and you have triangles, this honestly is not that hard, this stripe of hair. It's just a loop calling draw triangle and one other command. So the hardest part is figuring out how many triangles you need, because that might be a little trial and error, or a little math, whichever way you want to do it. And so knowing what those commands are. So honestly, it's a loop that calls draw triangle. And then the next line of code inside the loop is to move forward the number of steps of one side of the triangle. Because I wish the test thing was working on this. If you started over here with your turtle facing this direction, the way he's facing at the top of the screen, and he drew the triangle this way, it comes back to a starting point, right? The starting point for the next triangle just needs the turtle to move forward the width of the first triangle. So if you draw the triangle and then you move forward the number of steps, it should just move you over and draw. Worked for you, right, when we tried it earlier? Okay. So I feel like I've given y'all a whole lot of hints and helps on a project that actually came from CS1 and was given to CS1 students as their first project. So how are we feeling about the review so far of CS1 that we've done from the book and this project? You ready for new topics next week? So the book is going to cover loops, and I've turned that on and put a due date on it. This is not due till the weekend, unless I've sadly messed up the due date, but I don't think I have. I changed it. It was originally set to be due today, but I pushed it through the weekend because that gives y'all time to work on it after talking through this. Gives the online students time to watch this really bad video where I messed up a lot of typing. But y'all gonna be ready on Monday for chapter 4, right? We need to talk about a test, because we haven't had one yet. So rather than adding more material to the test, I'm going to give you a test over chapters 1 through 3. I am going to make it an online test. I'm going to put it into the quiz function of Moodle, and I'm going to turn it on. I need you guys, that you are here in person. You can take it in class next week if you want to. Even though it's an online test, you can come in here, grab a laptop, and y'all can take it in here, or you can take it at home. That's completely up to you. I'm going to leave it on for. You want to take it the first half of the week or the second half of the week? Is the question. Do you want time to? I'm trying to help me out. When's a good time frame for taking a test? What days, nights?
What, next week?
Next week, yep.
We didn't know each other.
So it's gonna be all over the place. You're gonna be in class. You can come in and take it in class.
Yeah. Good.
So I think I'm gonna turn it on Monday, and I'm gonna leave it on Monday and Tuesday. That way my online students have 2 choices. They'll have the same amount of time to take it as you guys will have to take it. And then you guys can come in here and just grab a laptop and take it. Does that sound fair? It is going to be a multiple choice test. Or something that can be done on the laptop. You're not going to be writing a whole lot of code. Because it's just a review of the book stuff.
So like, if we do take it from home, you can come to class, or
No, if you're going to take it at home, don't come to class Tuesday. But if you're all going to take it at home, let me know where I don't come to class Tuesday.
all right. Because I might take mine.
That's fine with me. But like I said, how about this? You guys that are in person, you guys email